There, I'm Shawna Robins, CEO and founder of Third Spark. And today I am doing an interview with Marva Bailer. Marva is in my Power Women series, where I talk to accomplished women who like to share their stories and experiences on navigating work, love, and life as a powerful woman. Marva has a passion for the intersection of technology, culture, cybersecurity, and AI, with over 20 years of leadership in major firms like IBM, Amazon, Twilio, and Splunk, as well as in high-growth startups. Recognized as the 2023 Game Changer by Scarlett Abbott, she's a proven disruptor and innovator. She is the author of Be Unexpected, a best-selling book and top career book in 2023 in the National Indie Excellence Awards, which emphasizes the importance of curiosity, courage, confidence, and collaboration amongst leaders. Marva, thank you so much for being here today.
You got it, Shawna.
So tell me, how did you get started in your career?
I got started because I needed money for shoes. So I've always wanted my own shoes, my own car, and actually I wanted my own house by the time I was 23. Because my mom was a single parent and I wanted to really make my own way. So after getting a retail job, my biggest job I got when I was a senior in high school, I actually managed a chain of health clubs and I made about $30,000 a year when I was a senior in high school. So that's how I got started.
Wow, that's impressive. I don't think many seniors in high school can say that. All right, so tell me a little bit about becoming a successful business leader. I know in the article that you answered in my series, you talked about the 3 character traits that you think were most instrumental in your success. Do you want to touch a little bit on those?
So it's really about finding empathy as well as owning your presence. It's so interesting that you have a health background, which I really appreciate. So back when I was working this health club, my main job, besides selling memberships and cleaning the bathrooms, as well as teaching aerobics classes, was actually I was the person responsible for letting people go. And these were career women. This was not their part-time job. This was their career. And most of them were also single mothers and the heads of their households. And for me, it really was a lot of empathy, but it also helped me find, how do you find the best in people? And when I noticed when I actually had to let these women go, and most of them were really old enough to be my mother at the time, I really had to find traits in them that they maybe didn't see in themselves. And that's really one of the strongest traits you can have as a leader is not doing things for people, but doing things alongside people, and then finding what that spark is that they have, and then helping them find that.
Wow. So how do you use that today in your current line of work?
So my current line of work, I get to do a lot of different things. I have a portfolio career. So I have emerged from big tech and I'm now advising companies as well as being a board director for private companies and for nonprofit companies. And it's so great because you have this outside perspective when you're not part of that, inner circle. And so you're able to say what needs to be said. You're able to ask questions that everyone's thinking, but they're like not sure if they're able to ask this question. So that's really how we create change. So I'd say that's the number one way that I make change.
All right, thank you. Now, I know you and I talked a little bit before this interview about your cancer journey. Is there anything that you learned from that that's helping you today in your career?
So with my cancer journey, everyone is different, as you know. And I actually intentionally chose not to tell anyone. And that was really because my experience basically from when I had kids. And so when I was pregnant with both my children, who are lovely adults today, both of those companies did not have maternity leave. And if I took maternity leave, I actually would not have gotten paid because most of my earnings was based on incentives. So in the workplace today, they care, they bring you to lasagna, they give you prayers, everything's great, but they're actually still talking, saying, can Marva do that job? Can Shawna do that job? Will that be too much for her? What about her family? How's she going to feel? So people are making decisions about you without you having that input. So I actually intentionally chose not to tell anyone. And then when I did, it was during radiation period, which for those of you that are on that have cancer or have worked with people that had cancer or your family members, you actually have to go and it's consecutive days. And I had to go for 45 consecutive working days. And people were used to getting hold of me. And as you know, in most medical facilities, you can't be on your phone. So that's when I chose to tell just my immediate reports. And what was so great is they really rallied behind me, but I actually became clairvoyant. And I think that's because, and I know you're a sleep expert, I think it's because we tap into a part of our brain when you're having to get rid of the senses of that your normal senses, and there's different senses around you from the different machines and lighting and people and the stress that you just the unknown, and a different part of your brain kind of clicks on. So I actually became clairvoyant. And at that time in my life, I was the top leader in the world, not just women, the only woman, by the way, but the top leader in the world for a top unicorn publicly traded company. In the same time, my daughter had graduated. My son won some big award in his early college years for writing a big screenplay. Like everything was just going great in my life, except I had this, you might die tomorrow if you don't do these 5 things. So it's just like your whole being is kind of shook, but there's like good parts of your life and challenging parts of your life. And you just have to kind of put it all together. But just to know like you're right where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, I always say that cancer was the biggest gift I ever got. It was the biggest kick in my head, slap upside the head I ever got, but it was the biggest gift that I was ever given because absolutely everything in my life and my mindset and my choices had to change and change
Right.
for the better because I couldn't mess around anymore with my life. I had to get very serious, very focused, and very clear on my priorities. And I had to put myself on the list, which I was not on the list before that. Yeah.
I've always been on the list, but what I did differently, I would say, is definitely take a lot more risk. I've always been a risk taker, but really take those risks because you do have that kind of mindset like, what if, like, what if and when if, like, is there going to be a better time? What's going to happen if I don't do this? And you really just have to kind of jump right in. So I really love what you said about your mindset. That is what needs to change, and that's what does change.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend cancer to anybody to have to change their mindset, but let me tell you, if you can lean into the lessons of having any kind of health crisis, right? Any kind of health crisis that you are forced to face, if you can really lean into that and learn the lessons, I do think that hopefully you come out better on the other end of it. Yeah.
Well, it's lessons and it's also, I learned perspective. So, a lot of people do want, to stay in bed and relax and take it as that's how they heal. But other people, there was recently a news broadcaster and on air, she said, please don't take my job away from me. I want to come to work. I want to be here. So there's a lot of different reactions. And so it just really helped me understand how caretakers, because they could have a completely different view. So you're a risk taker and they might go the complete opposite where they want to be extra careful. So it really gives you this perspective on people's perspectives, which I found super
Mm,
interesting.
yeah, that is super interesting. So give me an idea of your point of view of why you think our society is just not supportive of powerful women or strong women. Like you said, I mean, even having to hide a pregnancy or having to hide, your cancer journey. Like, why do you think that our society is so threatened by the fact that, women are not, able to be clear and honest about the things that they're struggling with or dealing with? Even I know menopause in the workplace is a big thing now too. Women don't feel comfortable being open and honest about it. So can you talk a little bit about why you think our society is like this and how do you think we can overcome this?
So our society, when you even say the word society, so society in itself establishes a structure. And so when you think of a structure, there's going to be a base. And then at the end of the day, there is going to be some kind of hierarchy. And our social norms is usually around experience, strength, space, etc. And so a strong woman or a strong person, regardless of their gender, or age, it really, it just doesn't fit into those boxes. And so, and what happens is people just feel threatened when it doesn't feel or look like something out of the norm. And there's been several studies over time, whether it be these workplace issues or even just examples on college campuses or even with kindergartners or playing in the sandbox. There is these constant, it's just really about social norms and people that don't look like you or shaped like you. It makes people go, what was that? And that's really the space that we're in right now. It's kind of that protection layer.
And how do you feel we can best overcome this as women in the workplace? Do you have any advice? Like, what would you tell your children, or what do you tell, your coworkers or your partners? What is it that you feel would be a really good thing for us to be focused on?
So I already know what I tell my children. I have a son and a daughter, so I feel like I have a little bit of experience because I have both. So the first one is you have to talk to your children about money. And that's one area that I think we are missing, specifically with women. A lot of women that grew up, I'm close to 60 years old. So a lot of us that grew up, we didn't know anything about what money. So I told you that I wanted to buy a house when I was, 24 years old, which by the way, I did. So you have to understand how much a mortgage costs, how much insurance costs, what does that look like? What are your liabilities? You have to understand that. And if you don't talk about money when you're younger, and I mean younger, like in high school younger, so you really not like, hey, so and so went to work. You need to understand the money aspect. That's going to be power right there. So I would say that's number one, money. You have to be open about it. You have to talk about it. Number two is you have to tell people what you actually are doing in your career. And that's why I really appreciate your platform here and authority and what they're doing, because you have to understand what people do in their careers. And if we can see it, we can be it. And we're doing a great job for STEM careers where we actually are explaining what people actually do. Because when you just say, hey, I'm going to be this major, there's a couple jobs if you are XYZ major that translate into a direct job. But for the most part, it really doesn't work like that. So unless you're getting outside of your parents or your caregivers circles, you're never going to advance. So I would say those are the two areas. If we can have these different kind of circles of influence and then really understanding money, those are going to change some of the behaviors.
Yeah, super and powerful for women to know not only their finances, but how to run a business, like you said, how to handle a mortgage on their own, how to be able to get business loans and investors and all of those things. There's not enough of an education in our traditional American education system that teaches our kids this. So I agree with you. I do think it needs to come from us as women, really teaching our children how to do this. So I'm going to change for a second. I want to talk about AI. I know that's something that you're involved in, that you're passionate about. I mean, as a powerful woman, where are you with AI, and what do you have to say for other women that are, looking to be empowered or even use it or be impacted by it in a positive way? I know there's such a focus of the negative of it, which is important to look at, and the structure around it, but I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on it.
So when we're talking about AI is data. So I'll repeat that. AI is data. And what is so powerful and the opportunity women have right now is to leverage that data as increased credibility and authority. So now when you have all this access to data that you might not have had before, you can now make data-based decisions and you can have cross-functional types of discussions. And so that's number one. Number two is unlocking the value and the data in your business and your organizations. And that includes your partnerships with other companies, and that includes your customer data, using it in different ways again for them. And we have the opportunity literally to create new economies right now, new economies and new markets, all through the power of AI. And really this is our core strength. So this is intuition. This is intersection. All of these words we use all the time, we can have the power to do that because now we have data at our fingertips and all we have to do is unlock our credibility. And then, of course, we're going to do all of this with ethics and transparency. And you really need to understand the technology aspect. But as women, we also have that heart, and we're going to understand the ethics and also the people aspect. But it's really important that you separate your personal preferences from, if those of you are in business, which probably most people are on this call, how you can leverage this and use this to change your business and your customers' business.
All right, I think I lost you right at the very end there. Your audio cut out just a little bit. So could you just restate that last sentence so we could get it?
Oh, okay, that's bad. That's bad.
Yeah, that's okay. Give it to me again, because I think it was really fascinating what you were saying. You were talking about leverage and how important it is for women to leverage.
We have the opportunity to leverage data. And because of this opportunity, we can leverage our ecosystem. So you need to separate your personal interest and what you do at home or on your phones to your business, and unlocking that value and communicating with your partners, your stakeholders, and your customers. We have the opportunity to create new marketplaces and new economies.
Ah, fantastic. Thank you for touching on that. All right, so how can people get your book, get in touch with you, follow you? How can they connect with you?
The best way to connect with me is LinkedIn. I'm a business person and I love LinkedIn. So if you write me a personal note saying that you saw me talking to Shawna, then I would love to talk to you. And my book is available on Amazon, Audible, Barnes and Noble, and at independent bookstores. And my website is marvabailer.com. So it's super easy to reach me, and I really welcome conversations. I've had some great meeting people from all around the world from being on programs like this. So it's really a great opportunity how we can connect in this way.
Ah, fantastic. Well, I can't wait to read your book, and I can't wait to follow you and just hear more and more on your thoughts on technology and AI and health and wellness and all of these different aspects of your journey and your life that you have to share with women. I mean, I'm so glad that I was able to meet you through this series, and I definitely feel that as a powerful woman, you are doing amazing things on this planet to help inspire other women.
Well, thank you, Shawna. Heart is power, and if you can have your love shine in the world, that's the best power. And your biggest asset is your smile. So smile with your heart, your mouth, and your eyes, and it will shine through.
Love it. Thanks, Marva.